Hi, I'm Jonathan Stein, editor of Project Syndicate. Today we're very happy to have with us Michael Spence, a Nobel laureate in economics. Michael Spence is professor of economics at New York University's Stern School of Business, distinguished visiting fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, and senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. He's the author of, most recently, The Next Convergence, The Future of Economic Growth in a Multi-Speed World. Last but not least, he's been a monthly contributor for Project Syndicate for almost 2 years. Mike Spence, welcome, and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, Jonathan. Fun to be with you.
Mike, your most recent Project Syndicate commentary focuses on the nature of risk in what you call a multi-speed world. What is a multi-speed world, and what does it tell us about where the global economy is headed?
A multi-speed world is a world in which different countries and regions are sort of separating and growing at very different, struggling in varying ways with challenges. I mean, in the post-war period, the developing countries, the ones that were succeeding, grew faster. So that's not new. But the post-crisis environment, I think, has exacerbated the sort of divergences in the growth potential of a number of economies.
One of the challenges that you emphasize, especially for the advanced countries, is the need to restore fiscal sustainability. What should a country like the U.S. do? It's very much in the news these days with debate and polarization in Washington about raising the debt ceiling. Can the U.S. really afford to pursue dramatic fiscal consolidation, British style, David Cameron style, dramatic spending cuts?
Well, there on the fiscal side, there's two issues. One is the one that we all agree on, I think, is that on some medium-term time horizon, like 5 to 7 years, we should restore fiscal balance. The second issue is how fast to do it. And that is a question of whether or not excessive speed in getting it done would jeopardize the so-called recovery. I think the British one is probably maybe different circumstances, but a little too fast. And I don't think we in the United States have to go that fast, but we do have to get the job done. And we certainly need a credible plan to emerge from the current congressional and administration process.
And at the same time, you emphasize the need for more productive public sector investment in advanced countries like the U.S., where the tradable sector, the sector that really is driving growth in developing countries, can really progress and become more competitive. And that means investment in infrastructure and education. Can that really be reconciled with medium-term fiscal consolidation? If so, how?
Well, it can, but it takes sacrifice. So, balancing the budget, basically is a time path for reducing the difference between government expenditures and government revenues. And now but it doesn't tell you anything about the composition of the expenditure. So if you're willing to cut what's called government consumption enough, you can probably get the investment levels up. So in principle, it's possible. Whether it's politically feasible is a different question.
Let's turn to China for a moment. In your new book, The Next Convergence, you point out that China's current account balance, or its balance in savings and investment, was relatively even until 2005, very recently. And since then, investment has continued to grow, but China's savings have grown faster. And there's been a very rapid growth in reserves to accompany this. Why is this a bad thing for China, having these huge surpluses, these big external surpluses? And what do Chinese leaders have to do to correct the problem?
What China needs to do is get as much income as they can in the hands of households, and then provide, a set of social services and safety net that helps drive down the household savings rate. What they really have to do is force the state-owned enterprises, which are still a very large fraction of the supply side of the economy, to dividend out the income. And then if they need it for investment purposes, ask for it back based on, high returns. So that it's a pretty complicated set of moving parts, but that's basically what they need to do to make this transition at the middle income level.
So there are big challenges in America, big challenges in China. We haven't even touched on Europe yet, and we may not. But the question then becomes, are the troubles that come with an open and more integrated global economy, these wrenching labor market adjustments in the advanced countries, destabilizing capital flows in major emerging market countries, is it all worth the benefits, or are there controls that countries can impose that would be both effective and beneficial in smoothing the process of adjustment in this, what you call a multi-speed world?
Well, I don't think there's any question that on balance, if you look back, from the end of World War II to now, the net benefits have been overwhelmingly positive. So it's definitely worth the effort to try to find a way through, the second half of this century-long journey. Now it's going to be different because the emerging markets are big and systemically important. And I agree with you, Jonathan. I think that what we're going to do is experiment with a variety of forms of control of the openness at the national level to try to make it work. I mean, the global economy will survive if we individually as countries and collectively through international entities like the G20 find a way to make it work for almost everybody. And it's not something that any of us have a blueprint for, but I think going in the direction, especially on the financial side, of being cautious about the opening up makes a lot of sense.
Michael Spence, thank you for sharing your fascinating, sobering, and perhaps encouraging perspective on where the global economy is headed.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Stein for Project Syndicate. Thank you for watching.